DJ Bridget. Nice. Welcome back to the BLISS Podcast, now remixed and ever fresh with DJ Bridget. I'm your host, Hare Krishna. I'm here with Purja Prabhu, the founder of the Bhaktivedanta Lives in Sound Society. Say hello if you would like, Prabhu.
I will not say hello.
Please. Everyone is waiting.
Hello is for losers. I say Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's much cooler. So how are you, Prabhu? How was the kneecap last time? If anyone was here on the last podcast, calling anyone who's listening to the podcast, Purja Prabhu, we discussed his knee has some kind of infection or mystery condition. We can't quite figure out what's actually happened to his knee. What is that, Prabhu?
Well, to sum it up, I'm slowly dying.
Aren't we all? I don't know exactly. We're trying all kinds of methods. Hot turmeric wraps, liquid silver. I think the next thing is just to stab it and try and drain it. Something extreme. What do you think, Prabhu? What's the Siddhanta?
I think saw would be very nice.
A saw?
Yeah.
Just get a peg leg.
Yeah.
But
must be rusty.
It must be. Then it's not exciting anymore. So, this is the something episode. I'm losing track of the number of podcasts we're actually on. Anyway, it's up there in the teens. And so,
if you know the number of the podcast, please leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you very much.
If you could go back and listen to all of the previous podcasts very scrutinizingly, then you'll be able to know how many podcasts we've done.
Just like Vishnupriya, the wife of Lord Chaitanya, would count according to how many grains of rice she would pick on the floor. She would chant one round and then she would put one grain of rice to the pot and then she would take that during the day. So if she chanted only one round, just hypothetically, there will be only one grain of rice she would eat. Right. So in the same way, if you want to count how many podcasts we have already published, then you must listen to every single one of them. Then it really counts. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Otherwise, you cannot count.
There's actually 16 episodes, I'm pretty sure, of the podcast. So this is the new sadhana. You chant 16 rounds and you listen to 16 BLISS podcasts.
So what is the podcast about today, Prabhu?
Yeah, right. Well, let's get to it. This week's podcast is about ghosts. No, I can't do any ghost effects. Boo! We don't have any ghost music, so unfortunately, maybe you can pull out something that sounds kind of ghostly. That could be like a Chinese ghost. So, this week's subject matter is ghosts and supernatural things.
Coronavirus.
Yeah,
Chinese.
I was just going to mention that there might be. There's a coronavirus. Let us know in the comment section below if your country that you're listening to this podcast in is currently quarantined by the coronavirus. We here in Gibraltar are experiencing a heavy lockdown. People are in complete, pandemonium. They're emptying out the grocery stores. We were able to offer the last cheeses to Krishna this morning. We got the last ones because everything's emptying out. So people are scared here about the coronavirus. Anyway, so we're talking about ghosts this week. If you weren't here for the last podcast, we talked about drugs. And what was I going to say? Yes. So this week on episode 16 is ghosts. So we'd like to thank our frequent listeners and supporters and donators. Jean Mataji is constantly supporting, giving very nice offerings of fruit to Krishna and having a nice association with us. Also, this podcast is dedicated to Jean Mataji, who is one of our good friends in Gibraltar, because she's actually dealing with a ghost right now in her house. She actually had... Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she's dealing with a ghost. You're not familiar with the situation, Prabhu?
Just to say, Jean Mataji is the editor of the Gibraltar Inside magazine. Right?
Yeah, she is. Very nice. And we also have there is an episode of the Gibraltar Insight magazine that features Lord Jagannath.
You can find it on the expandthebliss.com in the media section.
Okay, cool.
And also a clip of Maitreya Rishi Prabhu giving an interview for the Gibraltar TV.
Yeah, if you want to hear whatever nonsense I was saying on TV, then you can go there. But most importantly, go have Lord Jagannath's darshan. So, Jean Mataji actually kind of scared me a little bit more than a ghost. So, Jean Mataji is experiencing a ghost right now in the house. She's got some paranormal happenings there. So we decided to do some research and find out what Srila Prabhupada actually says about ghosts. But before we get into that, we'd like to thank Rebecca Mataji and Jenny Nigo for being very kind donators. Rebecca, I'm sorry I can't remember your surname, but thank you very, very much for being our first ever Patreon. Haribol! Wow. Jai. Congratulations, Rebecca. You are the first Patreon. Rebecca requested that she receives the Proof of the Vedas ebook, which everyone is entitled to, or if you would like another ebook from the BLISS selections of ebooks compiled by Purijit Prabhu, then you can also become a Patreon and support the preaching efforts here in Gibraltar. So thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Rebecca, very much for your kind support of the Bliss.
We would also like to thank Peter Kirshner and Lalita Devi for donating for our project through Makancho Prabhu's PayPal. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Jai. So, jumping into the ghosts here. I was doing some research on what Srila Prabhupada actually says ghosts are. Now, people have various experiences of ghosts. In the material world, obviously, some people dismiss it as kind of like a superstition. And I don't know about anyone who's listening to this podcast, but when I was younger, I was watching this show, Ghost Hunters or something like that, on the History Channel. Maybe some of you are familiar. But it's kind of like it's like a staged, I would say it's almost like a stage show. Maybe they have some real instances there also, but they would go and find some happenings of ghosts. They have, a night vision camera, and they'd act all scared, and they'd be detecting the ghost with some machines. So people take it as like a superstitious thing, or a way to get money from people, or a way to cheat people. But actually, according to the Vedic literature and according to Srila Prabhupada, ghosts are as real as anything. And they're just very logical. And you yourself or anyone can become a ghost. So what is a ghost? How can we defend ourselves against ghosts? And how can we prevent ourselves from becoming ghosts? So I made a little compilation. So according to Srila Prabhupada, what is a ghost? Well, Prabhupada writes, and according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma, who's the creator of the whole universe, not necessarily that Krishna actually made the whole universe. Krishna is the primary creator, and Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. Krishna created Brahma and empowered him to actually do the detail work inside the universe. So Lord Brahma was evolving different creatures from his body, and he created the ghosts and the fiends. Fiends also, this is kind of like hobgoblins and whatnot. So why he created fiends and hobgoblins is because in this material world we're put here, or we come here to enjoy, but actually that is full of suffering. So these various ghosts and hobgoblins, they guide that suffering. They are the instruments, partly the instruments of that suffering. So they are also created at the beginning of this universe. And so according to Srila Vishnavat Chakravarti Thakur, a breathing dead body is a ghost. So when a man dies and he appears in a subtle form, but he can still act in the material world. He can still move around, possess things, possess people, and move things around, talk to you. Then he is called a ghost. He exists, but not in a physical situation that we can necessarily see. So why they become a ghost in the first place is because they're attached to their family, their house, and their village, their property, their money, like that. And therefore, they don't get to obtain a gross body. This is like a punishment from the material nature.
I think we should explain that we have different bodies, different types of bodies. The first body that we all can see is the gross body that consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Right?
Yeah, the gross body is these 5 manifested elements.
I mean, for example, we have fire in the stomach, fire of digestion.
Krishna says, I am that fire.
Right. So, yeah, that's the gross body. You can perceive all these elements except also ether, you can also perceive by sound. Ether means sound. But then there's a subtle body that consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And that you cannot see. Sometimes people challenge it. I cannot see God, I cannot see Krishna, I cannot see the soul. They don't exist. But we can challenge, we can see, you cannot see your own mind, so that means you don't have mind, right? Or you cannot see your intelligence, that means you have no intelligence. No. See, these things exist because we understand by the symptoms. So a ghostly person basically remains in his subtle body. The subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and ego, and he is not rewarded with the gross body. So he has a desire, just like you might have a desire, you can think in your mind of taking a nice sweet or something. And but in order to fulfill that desire, you need the mouth, you need the stomach, you need the taste buds, and all these things. So the ghosts, they don't have that. That's why they create all kinds of disturbances, because imagine, you have all your desires, but you cannot fulfill them. Is that very pleasurable?
Yeah, they get frustrated because they get the temptation, the desire arises in the mind. Okay, I want to enjoy a nice rasgulla or sweet, like you said, and then they don't have the instrument to perform that action. So then they take out that frustration on the poor living entities that can actually perceive through the gross senses. So this is another way that we're suffering in this material world. Prabhupada also says that the followers of Lord Shiva are counted amongst the ghosts because they regularly smoke ganja, they don't take baths regularly, and they're not very hygienic like that. So they're also counted amongst the ghosts. Some other stuff I found there. So
we call them hippies.
Okay, so how someone actually becomes a ghost? Like we mentioned, that they are becoming too attached to the family. But when we become too much attached to material life, sometime or every time, that becomes frustrating because we're like an eternal spirit soul. We're full of pleasure. And when we try to enjoy something that's temporary, like material life, all these things, property, women or men, children, money, these material enjoyments, they can't possibly satisfy the soul because it's a temporary thing. You might be able to enjoy something for a little time. Even that is not really real enjoyment because it pertains to the gross body. But because you're not the body, the body is always changing, but you're always remaining the same. So you're going through these different bodies, from a childhood body to an old man's body. That means that you're not the body, you're not the senses. So when you try to enjoy these senses through material enjoyments, it just leads to frustration. It's like trying to enjoy a sweet through a covered tongue. You put some cloth on your tongue. You can't possibly taste the sweet, so material enjoyment is like that. It's not possible to enjoy. So we become frustrated when we try to enjoy these things for a long time, and then eventually some people become so attached that they just try to finish nirvishesha, or making zero. They making everything zero. They try to commit suicide. They try to end everything. They don't look for a better solution or how to change their activity, but they just want to end activity. So, of course, this is not the solution exactly. The solution is to change the service from material service to these material things, property, family, money, into spiritual service, devotional service unto Krishna, and then that service actually becomes pleasurable because it's spiritual. So when we don't do that, then we kill ourselves, and then if we kill ourselves, we become a ghost. We get this ghostly body, this ghostly existence.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, I can't take it. I have to kill myself, and then everything will be all right." But they're unaware of the fact that if they kill themselves, they will achieve even worse situation, the ghostly existence for many, many years, and then they go to the hellish worlds.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, the ghostly body itself is like more hellish, right? In one sense, because you have the opportunity to enjoy, and then you get also put in the ghostly life. So yeah, we should not misuse the human form of life, what to speak of killing.
It's like an insult that Krishna gives you this body. Here you go, You have your senses, you can realize yourself, God, devotional service. And instead of utilizing it, you just kill it.
Right.
So it's a great insult to Krishna.
Yeah. I mean, even if you don't believe in Krishna, I mean, like the human body itself is such a tool. Well, okay, let's say you should obviously believe in Krishna. For spiritual realization, and even not for spiritual realization, the body is like such a complex tool.
Yeah.
So
the human body is, practically speaking, like the best iPhone.
That we have a built-in iPhone. People are trying to buy the newest iPhone, but they actually have the most intricate iPhone with them all the time, and they want to kick it out. It's a nonsense. So we should not misuse this human form, because we get this human form after so many millions of births. We either get like a nonsense, like kind of not all the forms are very intricate and beautiful, but you can't do anything in those other forms. You can't hear, like we're hearing now, hearing Srila Prabhupada. There might be some chanting of Hare Krishna. So you can't hear in an animal body, and then you can't spiritually progress. So this is the only benediction, or the benediction that you get in a human form. You can hear, you can understand, you can philosophize, you can ask questions. So to give it up, like Prabhu said, is a real insult to Krishna. Or even, let's say Krishna doesn't exist. It's an insult to material nature. You get the opportunity to aim for higher ideals, and you just waste it.
But you should believe in Krishna.
That is the point. So, okay, now, let's see, another major point here. Okay, Prabhu, how about this? A little devil's advocate. Mm-hmm. You said that some people say, I can't see the soul or God, but you can see the mind. So, someone might say, yeah, that's okay. I can't see the mind, but I know it's acting. But that is the soul. There is no soul. There is just the mind. The mind is powering the body.
So sometimes your mind is disturbed. Sometimes it's concentrated, right?
Yeah.
So who's observing?
The mind is just reacting to that. It has chemical reactions. And in certain situations, the mind produces chemicals. If that produces a reaction in the body, I get anxiety, like that. Very scientific.
Okay, but who's observing the different states of the mind? You can observe. You can classify. Now my mind is disturbed. Now my mind is peaceful.
The intelligence is doing that.
Okay, so you call it intelligence, we call it the soul. So it's just a question of terminology, but there is the observer of the mind. That's why the mind is not the ultimate.
So I just found thank you, Prabhu, for smashing me. I just found an interesting quote from Prabhupada in this little compilation that one who becomes too much attached to opulent life is not very good for spiritual advancement. So donation, we have a Patreon that you can go on, and a GoFundMe that we're going to link in this video. You can become a Patreon and donate up to even $100 a month, but the lowest is $5. Give it a little something. It will help the preaching tremendously here in Gibraltar. Or you can give something on GoFundMe or one time, and on Patreon you'll be entitled to one of the nice ebooks that Purja Prabhu compiles. They're very nice. I highly recommend. Like Rebecca Mataji just got Proof of the Vedas. That is my favorite one. Okay, that's my little pravachan.
In other words, get rid of your opulence.
Yeah. If you want to advance in spiritual life, then give a donation to the Bliss. That is that's what's being said here.
I have nothing more to add.
Simply, that is the Siddhanta. So, okay.
But wait a minute. Maharaj Ambarish was a very opulent king.
Oh.
He was the emperor of the whole world,
Okay.
and he would use his wealth in the service of Krishna.
Right.
So we also say that if someone is opulent, it's not necessarily an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's not necessarily a qualification to be poor.
Mm-hmm.
For Krishna consciousness, it's not a necessary qualification to be poor man.
Right.
So what does it mean?
Well, I was just remembering now that you were reading me this quote a couple of days ago, that spiritual life, what is that? A good material situation is actually a benefit for your spiritual life. Right? You were reading me something like that. So how to adjust that, because I understand your point that you can dovetail your opulence, your wealth, your situation, your job in Krishna's service, and then actually be spiritually benefited. But Prabhupada here, he says that it's not good because you can become attached to it, even if you're trying to use it in spiritual life. So how to adjust? What is the missing piece of information?
Well, nothing belongs to me in this world. I come here naked. I leave, hopefully not naked. But in one sense, yeah, we have nothing. We come here with nothing. We leave with nothing. You can't take anything after death with you. So everything belongs to Krishna. So if we use things for Krishna's service, then we can be opulent and it doesn't matter. We'll not become attached because whatever we have, we use for Krishna service. So, sometimes people would challenge Srila Prabhupada that why you why you have a Rolls Royce car,
Right.
or why you have this golden rings or something like that. They would challenge him.
Mm-hmm.
So Prabhupada would use everything for Krishna. He even said that I could have taken the income for my books, I would be a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't take a single paisa.
Mm.
I invested in the Hare Krishna consciousness temples and book distribution, book printing, like that.
Right.
Prabhupada wouldn't keep the money, he would invest in the preaching. Constantly, yeah. So whatever money we have, if we use for preaching, then that opulence is good. That's a good opulence.
Right. Well, do we follow this Srila Rupa Goswami's structure of 25% for emergency, 25% for the family, and 50% for the advancement of Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, and if your family members are devotees, then it's even better.
Then 75% goes for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. So, okay, so you can use, if you have opulence, you can use it in Krishna's service and you won't get bewildered.
No.
Okay. So, the links will be in the description. Now what do ghosts actually do? how do they act in this material world? Well, Prabhupada here, he says that they can actually haunt you, take shelter of your body, and manipulate the material world. Let's read. We have heard of people being haunted by ghosts, having no gross Okay, yeah. The music must be there. It might be a little... I don't know if I can raise my voice so loud. Having no gross material body, a ghost seeks shelter of a gross body to stay in and haunt. By birth as a ghost, one gets the mystic perfection of disappearing and entering into the bodies of others. Wow. Not exactly enters, but he catches the body. Because the ghost has no gross body, he has got his subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. You cannot see him, how he has attacked that body. You cannot see the body of mind and intelligence. You know I have got my mind, I know you have got your mind. But you do not see my mind, I do not see your mind. So ghost is within the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. So with that subtle body he attacks the man, but you cannot see. He does not enter into him. The enter is the soul within the body. Therefore ghost is sometimes walking in the room. We cannot see him, but he takes away something. We see that the thing is going away, because you cannot see his gross body. Ghosts sometimes manifest a body, and sometimes they do not. Because he has got a gross body, he can move very swiftly. Now he is here, and he can go 10 miles away immediately. But there is a ghost. So, and a little bit more. They especially attack women. A male ghost haunts over a woman, and a woman ghost haunts over a man. So, apparently, ghosts can haunt you. And then when a ghost haunts you, Prabhupada also says in another place that you start talking nonsense, like blabbering and gibberish like this. Sometimes we see people on the street you could say they're basically possessed. So that's actually the influence of a ghost disturbing the mind. So I had a little realization off of this, that another evidence, as to a logical evidence as to why you can say why there are, how the subtle body can exist outside of the gross body. We actually have regular experience of such a thing, that when you go to sleep, the gross body is completely non-functional, but the subtle body is still working. You still have some kind of ego working there, intelligence is discriminating, mind is perceiving some experience, and you're there experiencing within a subtle body, and it's in some different realm. It's flying in a chariot or going somewhere and experiencing astral realms of existence. So the subtle body is, we have experience that it can exist outside of the gross body.
That's true, yeah.
So, ghosts are experiencing this all the time. But obviously that's a very frustrating existence. So, let's see. Apparently also Prabhupada says that one can be haunted by the ghost of a snake or tiger. So, I don't know exactly how a snake or tiger gets into a ghost body. That much isn't explained. But, that's kind of terrifying. Actually, there are instances of people believing that they are animals. So they have the explanation why people begin to think that they're a dog or a tiger, like that, is because of the possession of ghosts. There are so many things that are beyond our perception, but still people are relying on their gross material senses to perceive the world, or to perceive everything. Just recently we started a conversation on Reddit, and I asked, what is the proof of the non-existence of God? And so many people, in fact pretty much every atheist on there, gave me the answer that I don't believe in God pretty much because I can't see him. Show me God. But the thing is, what can you actually see with your eye, with your gross eyes? You can practically see nothing. Paramahamsa Prabhu, I remember him telling me a long time ago that you can't even see your own eyelids. Your eyelids are on your eyes, and you can't even see them. If the sun sets beneath the horizon, does that mean the sun doesn't exist? So, or if there's somebody who's living, let's say now in Gibraltar, we're in Spain, someone lives in Gibraltar, and someone tells me about that person, but I don't see him, does that mean that person doesn't exist? This is a very impractical way of ascertaining knowledge.
Well, according to this theory, since we cannot see our listeners, they don't exist, right?
Yeah. And they should prove their existence by commenting on the video and liking it and sharing it with all their friends. Then that is how we can ascertain if they're real. So yeah. So this is not the real way to ascertain knowledge. The real way is to ascertain knowledge by hearing from an authority. So that is why we're now hearing from Srila Prabhupada, because this is how we can understand things that are beyond the senses, understand spiritual knowledge, understand what is God, and what is the soul, and what is spiritual life. Because these things are transcendental in nature, so we have to contact and hear from a transcendental authority to understand them.
And that transcendental authority is Srila Prabhupada.
Yes. And how do you begin to ascertain this knowledge? What is that shloka in the Bhagavad Gita? Tatpati.
Tadviti pranipatena?
Pariprashnena sevaya.
How you say it?
Uparikshanti te jnanam garinastappadashinaha. You got to do some service. Sevaya, you got to do some service. So a nice service that everyone can do is you can share and you can like the video. You can tell your friends about the bliss, or you can just tell your friends about Krishna. That is also the instruction of Lord Chaitanya. Do some preaching, and then you'll begin to feel blissful as you please Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, let's go on more about ghosts. So there are different kinds of ghosts. I found some interesting quotes from Prabhupada about the varieties of ghosts that you can find, just like how there's varieties everywhere that you look, because of the levels of impiety and piety. People get different karma. An action produces a reaction. So if you do something good, you get some good karma. If you do something bad, you get some bad karma. Ultimately, it's all bad, because if it's not for Krishna, you keep yourself in the material world of action and reaction. So just like how we see pious bodies, like even a tree has a pious body. Trees that produce fruits are pious, and trees that have no scent or beauty are impious. Similarly, ghosts, ghouls, all these things, they also have levels of pious credits. So Prabhupada says, in the material world, when one is not covered by the gross body but the subtle body, they are called ghosts or pramatas. Those who are good, not harmful, they are called pramatas. And those who are harmful, as in this material world there are good men and bad men, similarly, amongst the persons who has no gross material body, they are sometimes called ghosts, and sometimes they are called pramata. So, this is the level. These are different kinds of ghosts, and speaking in terms of pious credit and impious credit. And then another kind of ghost is one that moves without a head or a brain. Prabhupada doesn't exactly explain why it moves like that, but
he does.
Okay.
Yes, I found a quote. Prabhupada says that people who get their head cut off.
Okay. Like a violent death. A violent death produces this. Okay. So Prabhupada then says that the current civilization is a ghostly civilization because they're moving without any head, any spiritual direction, any brahmanas to give them what is actually spiritual knowledge. So the current civilization are all ghosts, Prabhupada says. So and then some other ones. There are different kinds of ghouls also. Mother Yashoda was protecting Krishna from different kinds of evil spirits and ghosts and denizens of hell by applying different ointments and oils and chanting mantras. She lists that there are bhutas, pretas, pramatas, guyakas, pisachas, vitalas, dakinis, yatunidinis, kushmandas, yakshas, rakshashas, vinakyas. There's lots of witches also. So many names. I'm not going to go list them all now, but they give trouble to the life heirs in the senses. So, if you're experiencing disturbances of the mind and body, that also could be the influences of witches and ghosts.
There were these German writers, the Grimm brothers.
Right.
You know the Grimm brothers? So they had the fairy tale about this witch who had a house made of candy house. And the two girl and boy, they went there and they started eating, and then the witch captured them and she ate them, right?
Yeah.
She didn't eat the candy, she ate the human flesh. She was using the candies as a bait.
Yeah. Well, that's like...
When you read the Putana story in the Krishna book, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a demon described that Krishna killed, Mother Putana. Mm-hmm. So Prabhupada explains in that chapter that these witches, and they kidnap kids,
right,
and they drink their blood
of
the small kids. Can you imagine? Horrible. So, the Grimm brothers, they must have read the Bhagavatam or something.
Yeah. Well, these witches, they exist, right? I mean, everything that's happening, everything that's said in the Bhagavatam is actually the reality. So, so many instances of witches and stuff, like also in, Norway or Holland or one of these more northern European countries, they have this idea of the, I was just discussing with Macintyre Prabhu a couple months ago, you can put down in the comments if you know, but there's a kind of demoniac opposite, like he's the villain of the Santa Claus Leela. And if you do bad, if you get on the naughty list, he comes and he sucks your blood, and he's also like a witch that sucks your blood.
That must be Satan Claus.
Yes, yeah, right, exactly. Satan Claus is coming to town. So, other cultures in the world experience what is stated in the Bhagavatam. Very interesting that it's confirmed in other places too. So, now, we discussed so much about ghosts. What do we actually do to defend ourselves against ghosts? This is very important, otherwise, we can talk about being haunted, but that's just going to scare us if we don't know what we're actually going to do to protect ourselves. So Prabhupada says that there cannot be rakshasas or ghosts or evil spirits, no matter how powerful they are, if there is the chanting of the holy name of God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So this chanting, very powerful. In the Bhagavatam also, there's a nice shloka that there's the holy name of the Lord, which is feared by death personified, or death itself. So
fear personified.
Fear personified. Thank you. That's this is actually, this holy name is non-different from Krishna, God. It is non-different from God Himself. So how many potencies are invested in this name? Unlimited. So it is just a matter of our realization and our devotion. So we should always be chanting. Obviously, this is like a natural thing that we should always be chanting, always associating with Krishna. Who doesn't want to do that? But also, as a side effect, there will never be any ghosts to haunt you. So not only can you have a jubilant kirtan, and you can please Krishna, please Srila Prabhupada, enlighten other people around you, but also you yourself can be free from material anxieties like ghosts. So this is just one side effect. Now, Prabhu, were you telling me about a story that's about Srila Prabhupada? Okay, cool. So we have an audio of that?
No.
Okay. We just have the nice music to read. Such a story. Okay.
This is a story of the devotees who had the experience of ghost, and how Srila Prabhupada told them to chant and scare the ghost or chase the ghost away. It's by one of the early disciples of Prabhupada, Mukunda Das.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like a big sannyasi, a guru in ISKCON.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he wrote a book, autobiography, Miracle on the 2nd Avenue.
Okay.
It's about Prabhupada.
Yeah.
So there's some nice pastimes there. During our stay at Tittenhurst, Janaki, Malati and Yamuna befriended a red-haired Scottish woman named Mrs. MacDougall, who was living in a small Georgian house on the property. Her husband was a bricklayer who was working on the estate, and whom the Lennons were happy to accommodate in addition to paying them. Lennons, that refers to Yoko and John, but the Beatles. Yeah. Howard MacDougall, the bricklayer, was a very quiet man. One evening, Janaki told me that Mrs. MacDougall had confided in her that she and her husband were being kept awake at night by strange noises coming from the top floor of their house. They were afraid they were going to lose their home and employment because Mr. MacDougall had to sleep during the day and wasn't getting enough work done on the Lennon property. They're convinced it's a ghost, Janaki said. She said she thinks it's the work of the Dale. I think that's Scottish for devil. She asked me if I thought she was crazy, and I said no, that the Vedas say it's possible for a soul to be in a ghost body, and I mean a subtle body but no material body and senses. Maybe they should tell John and Yoko, I suggested. I said the same thing, Janaki said. She said they would told them, and Yoko hired an exorcist to get rid of it, but he couldn't do anything about it. He said the ghost was too powerful. What kind of sounds do they hear? I asked. She said they hear heavy chains rattling and something being dragged across the floor. Like what? She said it sounded like a body being dragged, or like boots. Chains and dragged bodies sound pretty cliché to me, I said. I had always been skeptical about ghosts and supernatural beings, but when I met Prabhupada, I discovered that ghosts appear in many of the scriptures of India. Although the Vedas supported the idea of some ghosts being friendly, most of them seemed to be malevolent because they were frustrated. According to the Vedas, ghosts still had minds and desired food, sex, and other sensory pleasures, but they could not fulfill these desires because they had no sense organs. Prabhupada said it was possible for a disembodied being to continue to reside in a particular house because of excessive attachment to the dwelling. He also said some powerful ghosts had the ability to possess others' bodies to gratify their desires, especially the bodies of those who had taken alcohol or drugs or were in some kind of vulnerable state. They're really upset about it. Can we ask Prabhupada what we should do? I think so, I said. When I told Prabhupada about the situation, his response was direct. Drive it out, he said gravely. How? I asked. They hired an exorcist and even he couldn't help. Yes, but Krishna can, Prabhupada insisted. On a cloudy day, ask the people to leave the house. Then you have loud kirtan, use mridanga kartals and keep blowing conch shell. Sprinkle water, offer to Krishna on floor. Burn lots of incense. You must chant Hare Krishna in the house all day. You think that will drive away the ghost? I asked a little doubtfully. Yes, he said with certainty. A ghost cannot remain in presence of Krishna's name. A couple of days later, 20 devotees gathered in the MacDougall's home for a spirited Hare Krishna chanting session. We're going to be a few hours, Janaki said to Mr. Dougal. Why don't you take a walk? Well, there's a wee bit of rain, but we can take our brollies, Mrs. MacDougall agreed. The kirtan lasted 5 hours. We threaded our way through all the rooms of the small house, singing and playing our instruments loudly. At 3 o'clock, we finally concluded our exorcism and scuffed out across the southern park to find the MacDougals. I found them sitting on a damp bench among the rhododendron bushes. The coast's clear, I said. You can go home now and I hope get a good night's sleep tonight. The next morning, Mrs. Dougal reported that they had slept peacefully throughout the night without any disturbance coming from the attic.
That's nice. Upbeat.
The problem was solved.
Wow, Jai, look at that.
For the months that we stayed at Tittenhurst, the sounds were not heard again. The MacDougals were immensely grateful to us and to Prabhupada for saving their sanity and their livelihood. Yubi!
Yes. Amazing timing.
Yeah, so, there you go.
Jai. Okay, cool. So, chant Hare Krishna. That is the conclusion to solve everything.
To sum it up, sprinkle water offered to Krishna, blow conch shell, chant at least 5 hours
with kartal and mridanga.
With kartal and mridanga. This is Prabhupada's instruction for chasing away ghosts from the house. So if you do this, rest assured, the ghost will go away.
Jai. Okay, I think that about does it for this episode about ghosts and spirits. Thank you, Gene Masterji, for giving us the inspiration. Hopefully you will also find some inspiration and encouragement from this podcast. And thank you everyone else for listening, and to our frequent listeners. Thank you to our donors, and thank you to our supporters very much. So, I guess we'll meet you on the next episode of the BLISS Podcast. Anything else you'd like to add, Prabhu?
I would just like to apologize for devotees or friends who wrote me on Facebook. I wasn't able to go online, so if I don't respond, it's because I wasn't online, and I will respond as soon as I'm fit. So please be patient. I will respond to your messages soon. Hare Krishna.
Puriji Prabhu is doing Babaji bhajan here in the temple and can't respond to your Facebook messages.
So-called Babaji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are we going to roll that outro music, or is there something else that we should mention here? Okay, one more thing that we forgot to mention, and it's been this is nice. We can keep this music going on. So, it's kind of encouraging. He puts a nice light tune to this part. So, you can, alright, so, you can get in contact with us on our Instagram page at Expand the Bliss, and you can get in our Facebook at Bhaktivedanta Lives in Sound Society, and on our YouTube at Expand the Bliss, and Kick on the Face, 2 different channels. You can check them out, share them, like the videos, watch all the videos there. You can become a donor on Patreon and GoFundMe, and you can give whatever you can to support the preaching. You can write in the comments your suggestions and your challenges and your nice support. So keep in contact with us through our social media. That's why it's there. Okay, nice.
Chant Hare Krishna.
Jai.